Behind every animated film, video game, and immersive digital experience is a global network of creators, engineers, and innovators working together to bring ideas to life. But just as important as the artists who created the work are the people who design the tools, build the partnerships, and shape the technology ecosystems that make creativity possible at scale. Today's creative industries are evolving faster than ever, powered by real-time production, global collaboration, and new technologies that allow artists to move from concept to final production with unprecedented speed. Today on Behind the Magic, we're joined by a leader helping drive that transformation. Welcome to Behind the Magic, the official podcast of the Miami Animation and Game International Complex at Miami-Dade College. I'm your host, Mauricio Ferraza, and today we're excited to welcome Hannah Imperial Cannon, Senior Global Partner Relations and Director of Business Development at Xencelabs. With more than 30 years of leadership experience across creative technology and content production industries, Hannah leads North American teams spanning marketing, sales, partnerships, customer support, and logistics, helping drive the company's global growth and industry collaborations. She played a key role in launching Xencelabs brand and product line during the global pandemic, developing innovative go-to-market strategies and strategic partnerships that position the company as a leading provider of professional creative tools. Prior to Xencelabs, Hannah held enterprise leadership roles at Autodesk, Softimage, Wacom, and The Foundry, who owns Nuke, working closely with major studios, visualization teams, and creative production companies across animation, VFX, gaming, product design industries. Hannah, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Mauricio, for having me.
It's amazing to have you here. And wow, what a career. My goodness.
Thank you.
Yes. So one thing many students don't always realize is how many people beyond artists and animators shape the tools the creative industry relies on. You've spent your career working on the intersection between technology, partnerships, and production pipelines. Now, here's the question. When you look at today's animation, gaming, and visualization industries, what excites you the most about where creative technology is heading?
Well, I think about the students and I think about what we've been doing over the last 30 years. And I think the bottom line is always the passion for creativity, regardless of the tools. If you always have that, then you'll always drive innovation. Lots of kids can do things, just drawing and pen and paper all the way through to, visual effects software. But I think the thing to keep in mind is, keep your passion and keep your mind open and always expand yourself.
Awesome. What first drew you into the creative technology and production industries?
So my family was creative. And I always found when I was younger that I'd always try to fix things or, come up with concepts and make things and, products that were out there, I'd kind of redraw, and I was always I was the kid who was always drawing in class. I was very shy in doing things like this. So if I had to do a presentation, I would go and vomit. I was not cool. So I'd have to build a drawing or make something that would reflect my view from the audience, and I would point to things. I had to give a presentation on Tennessee, so I spent a week drawing Tennessee and all the things. So I found that it was my crutch, but it was also a bonus for me because I could draw and I could explain things more visually than I could with audio. So that was a lot. That's what drew me to art and design.
And how was your family creative? That's cool.
My father, he loved to paint. He's from Brooklyn. He used to paint on walls. He'd do landscapes. My mother's from Iceland. She always would do landscapes. One of my uncles was an art teacher in Iceland.
That's nice.
we always were doing like drawings and, like doing, like you do sketchbooks of your travel. So we'd always do a little painting for each other or do something to remember our travels in like one of those, little notebooks.
Cool. So, but what were some of the pivotal career moments that shaped your leadership skills, path?
So it was, for me, it was trying to figure out when I started, I went to art school. I went to 3 different art schools. I started at FIT for illustration, but they were geared towards fashion, and I was not a fashion girl. Then I went to one of the art institutes, um, but I wanted to learn how to do animation and motion kind of visuals. And I found that I went to different schools. I went to the art center. I didn't get in. I was not that kind of a drawer. I did not do industrial design. So I found Ringling and I went to school at Ringling, and I just wanted to really, for me, Disney movies, I loved King Kong and all those like stop motion things. So I just was just so drawn to it, and the idea of designing and creating new worlds and, coming up with stories. So I just, I always geared towards the creative groups of people.
So you were being a creative in school. How did you go from being a creative to creating the tools for creatives?
So right out of college, I got a job in a broadcast company, and I used to do the animation and feed graphics and flying logos. And then I would go to events just to learn more. And I started to talk to the vendors and, understanding the computers, learning more about the software. I was just always, I just wanted that knowledge and to learn. I felt like when I was learning, the tools the tools, the engineer side and the artist side were kind of merging at the time in the early 90s. So I kept on learning, and I started talking to one of the guys at Autodesk, I think it was, or New Tech, and I was telling them how to demo. Like, because I would go and I'd learn the product, and then I'd learn little pieces of it, and I got hired to do demos. So I started
Gotcha.
demoing Lightwave, and I ended up demoing Maya. So I ended up being the demo person.
Okay.
And then I actually was at New Tech. I was demoing Lightwave, and the Autodesk guy who was showing me 3D Studio Max, we got into like the sales guy and I got into an argument. And he was like, oh, trying to impress me. And then I was like, okay, well, this is what you do. And like, we were like arguing. I'm like, you're just a sales guy. And next thing I know, he hires me a couple months later to be doing sales and demos.
That's amazing.
So I kind of crossed the talking to the artists, being an artist, because I'm not trying to sell them. We're trying to solve problems. So that bridged the change from being an artist to more of a technical salesperson.
No, totally makes sense.
Yeah.
100%. And how are hardware tools, in your opinion, like evolving right now to support modern animation, VFX, game development, and so on?
So there's so many amazing tools now that we didn't have back in the day. Like, I think, even like 3D Studio, Maya, Max, all those, they were emerging. But I think more like the game engine stuff is coming out. The real-time things are really important now. Where you always have to have that background skill in design and understand the basics. I think you should never get rid of that. You should understand that there's, easier ways to go about processes and production. And I think studios are still learning that, schools are still learning that, and the students are also, they're learning about it. So being open to that change is important. Listening to your partners. Like, I just had a meeting with Unreal today, and they're always looking for tools, but you also have to speak to the artists. You have to speak to the people in production and understanding what are their pain points. So if you understand when their pain points is, how do you fix that? How do you fix that process? And then communicating that all the way back to like different leadership, right? So you talk to the artist, you go to Disney or you go to Warner Brothers or Nickelodeon, they're always trying to solve different problems in production. So if you actually listen to those problems, then you can relay that back to your product team who are developing either the software or hardware. Because if you just keep on developing things because you think that's what people need, you're missing that path.
Yeah, yeah. I wish I had you on staff. No, it's true because I've been an artist into the
Yeah,
administrative,
yeah,
but we're also at the mercy of what's in the market.
right.
But in the dialogue, this dialogue does not exist between an education institution, for example,
Yeah,
and it does in a fair, which comes to my next question:
yeah,
how important are partnerships between? Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, so when I started Xencelabs with Michael Thompson, he was head of product. We both left Wacom when we came here to start Xencelabs. While we were doing that, I noticed the path of product just kind of going because they're making lots of money, right? There are a lot of companies, they've made money and then they stick to it. They don't innovate, right? They don't listen to their audience. And these executives come in who think they know what they're doing and they're not, they kind of, they fall off the path and some other smaller company comes
yeah.
in, filling that niche or need to the users. So I think when you're talking to different partners, like for example, we're hardware. Without the software partners, I'm nobody,
Yeah.
right? So if I'm not talking to Unreal or Autodesk or asking their demo artists or their guys creating going out and talking to other people or developing the tools, we're going to miss that path. So like um, Ozone 3D is a company doing rigging. Rich Hurry over there, he talks with us. He's checking, using our tools, doing rigging with the pen technology. He's helping me understand, and he's working with other tools like the Unreal Engine. They're testing our tools. It only helps us get better. So the more partnerships you have, the better the production pipeline is for the user.
And how much of an opinion from artists or anyone the hardware company has to have in order to modify?
For me, that's 100%.
Okay.
Without, we did not even launch our first product without talking to users. So for even our opaque tablet, we were testing the pressure, right? And understanding like what's the middle ground, what's the middle ground between heavy pressure, light pressure, how much do people use this, how many times are they changing during their drawing day, the initial activation force, workflow, who's left-handed, who's right-handed, who used the tool, who's a keyboard user. You have to get that feedback before you go into producing a product, or even in color, right? The color spaces, the displays. I was at Wacom for years talking to studios. I went to like Blue Sky Studio, Warner Brothers, or wherever, and they would beat me up on color. How is to calibrate? Well, I'm like, oh, and I'd run back with my, tail between my legs trying to figure it out. So before we launched our product, our Pen Display 24, I talked to a gentleman who was working on the Avatar movies. He used to beat me up at Blue Sky about the color. I'm like, Jamie,
I got it.
you take it. We hired him. We had him reviewing the product and then putting it out there. So now we have an accurate color display that is popular among users. So you have to get that feedback.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
good. Yeah. In your opinion, like, what separates young professionals who successfully transition into the industry? What do they have to do, be, say? How,
Yeah.
as you know, our audience are mostly students.
Yeah.
So, and you've been in the industry for a long time. So,
Yeah.
what
So it's important to be, obviously talented. You have to be a little talented. You have to have passion.
sorry, but when you say talented, is it manipulating the software or is it a vision? Is it
I
a
think you
person?
can learn software as long as, you're open to learning it. Um, Not complaining, being open to learning is most important, and communicating and networking. Networking is key, right? So being flexible, you may walk into a studio that's big or small, doesn't matter. You're still learning in that environment. If you say, I don't do that, this is not my job, then like you're kind of pinpointing yourself out. Any kid that I know is successful started out, um, you get the coffee, whatever it is you have to do, you do it because you're learning. You're still in that environment. You still get to watch a production going on, whether you're getting the coffee or you're doing the animation work. But be open to learning, be open to communicating. And sometimes you got to work late. You don't complain about it. You don't, that's, I think the biggest key is just being open to your environment and that day, and then you'll expand. You automatically do. I've worked everything. I've done sales, I've done lead cards, whatever it
Oh, that's
was,
odd. Back in the
like
90s, you had to
every
do everything.
lead cards, whatever it took, so I could be at like SIGGRAPH,
Yes.
then I could go and learn. And then talking to the different vendors, that to me, like I'd go home all jazzed with all my hats and bags
And
and
pens and
pens, and I still have like piles of them left, and like badges of t-shirt honor.
do you notice a generational evolution, or it's just
I think that kids are really smart with technology, where we were still learning back then.
that's
So
true.
they've got tools that we didn't have. Um, I think though, and they have we're Facebook, I'm old, but they have the Snapchats and the TikToks and all that now. But if they can learn to hone that in networking, like
Yeah.
my kids alone, they're, in college and they're learning. And I just say, you need to network yourself. You need to showcase yourself, not at some like party, but like the work that you're doing, or like the event you're going to, like tell people you're there, and like showcase that you're willing to be there, and that like, hey, I went to this, animation fest. This is so cool. Like network yourself that way more.
There is research now that says that
Yeah.
the students coming out of high school, they are
Yeah.
tech savvy.
Yeah.
That's not the issue anymore.
No.
But you can put them all 30 students in one classroom and they will not talk to each other.
Well, how do you stand out then?
There you go. Yeah.
Right. And like telling, I've had some kids who are like, oh yeah, they were at SIGGRAPH or GDC, Game Developer Conference, and they came over and they're like, do you remember me? And the fact that they even talked to me, I think that's so wonderful. You've got some great kids here who like came back and talked with me, and like I would hire them in a minute.
Yeah, it's important. Yeah. All right, well, we'd like to close with a rapid 5 question.
Oh.
So, one tool every digital creator should master.
One tool?
One tool, yes.
Obviously they should know like the basic Adobe Creative Suite. I think that's, either shoe design, car design, animation, illustration, motion media, all that. Everybody goes back to Photoshop, whether, there are other tools out there, but it's always good to have some basic skills. But I think the Adobe Creative Suite, and I don't mean to advertise for them, but that's what I see everywhere.
One professional skill students often underestimate.
Networking and being careful what you post online. No politics.
Yeah. A technology trend that excites you most about the next 5 years. Where are we heading?
Something that excites me and scares me all the same time is obviously AI. How to use it, and you and I spoke about this a few times. AI is interesting. I don't think it's a new concept. If you really look deep into like early days of Photoshop, you had all those like filters. That was all AI too, right? So it's just understanding, what is working. Some jobs are leaving, some jobs are coming. So just understand what those jobs are. I think we're humans. We're gonna, find ways of working, but utilize AI to be respectful to the artist who created the work. That's most important.
One piece of advice you wish you had, at the time when you're starting your career, someone would have told you, and that maybe you tell everybody now. But
there's no easy path.
I know, right?
There's that to me. Just do the work. Don't complain. You can complain at home. You can cry at home. Do that, but don't. Do your best to just listen and learn.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for joining us today, and it was awesome talking to you.
Yeah, it's always awesome.
All right, thanks.